What is up, guys and everyone? Welcome back to Across the Board, sponsored by Moneyball Metrics. You have your normal host, myself, Alpha Dog Bets, and JD from Line Movers. But as you guys know, we have our two regular Friday guests. I don't know if we can still call them guests, but our two regular Friday guys. We have Ben from We Beat the Spread, and we have Joe from Moneyline Hacks. Joe, I will start with you. How are you today? And welcome back to the show.
I'm doing good, Alpha. Doing great. Got some more NFL week 2. Still feeling fresh on that. And more UFC. A big Noche UFC card. Feeling real good. Feeling better than last week, actually. So we're doing good.
We have the Big Sphere event. We have the Noche card, like you said. So we are super excited to dive into some MMA/UFC with you. Ben, how are you today? It's good to see you again.
Yeah, good to be on again. Obviously, NFL's back. We've been covering that now. But I got to say, I'm very, very excited for this UFC card tomorrow. Seriously, we've been a little bit spoiled with 300 and now this card, which looks like it's going to be excellent. It's going to be a historic event. Dana White said it's probably going to be the only card we ever see in the Sphere. So it's going to be a good time. It's got a lot of hype, and I think it's going to live up to it. I'm really, really excited for tomorrow.
Do you believe him on that? Like, if this is a huge booming success, there is no way this is the only time they do this event at the Sphere. Great marketing by Dana. Great marketing. Get everyone in. This is your only shot, but I don't think this will be the only one. It looks like it's going to be an unbelievable show. JD, how are you today, my friend? Good to see you per usual.
Good, man. Yep. Everything is going well. Last night's game was kind of a weird one. Just with everything there. But yeah, man, like everything's good.
Quickly, before we go into the MMA hour with Joe and Ben, our two resident MMA guys, I do want to quickly touch about that game last night, JD. Good segue into that. Pretty sad to see what happened with Tua. I mean, I think you have to talk about that today. If you watched ESPN this morning, all you heard today was talks about Tua, whether he should retire, whether he should try and come back. I'm not exactly sure. Ben, how do you feel about the whole situation? All that I know is it sucks to see him keep going like that, where his body is uncontrollable and he has those blatant trauma concussions. What do you feel about the whole situation and about Tua?
Yeah, I mean, you got to almost kind of think he's either done or has a very short life left in the NFL, just from a safety standpoint. I mean, the whole fingers thing, it was scary when it happened the first time, let alone it happening kind of again. It's just a tough situation. It's sad because he's good. The Dolphins, it kind of seemed like they're on the rise, especially with Tua. So it's just really sad to see. And that was kind of a good rivalry building there. I know the Bills have had the better hand on them in recent history now, 11-1 in their last 12. But it seems like they've always had good games. They met in playoff stuff. So it's really sad. It really just,
I agree.
There's not really a good way to put it as far as just saying, I think he has to be done.
I agree.
He kind of has to be.
You have to put your life first. You have a family. You've made a ton of money. You've made generational wealth for your family. I believe in career earnings. He has well over $100 million. I do know that he just signed this $200 million extension, but he did get basically $100 million of it guaranteed. Plus, he did get paid in full for his full rookie deal. So it's not a case of, I need to make this money. You have generational money. I personally think he does need to take care of himself. He didn't even get hit. That's the sad thing. Like, it was not a dangerous hit in the NFL terms. He didn't get a helmet to helmet. He didn't even really get hit in the helmet. He really hit Damar Hamlin in the chest, which, let alone, that's how Hamlin got hurt. But you wouldn't expect a quarterback to take that kind of injury from the type of hit that he had. I just don't think he could take any hits left in the NFL to the head, or it could be a really, really sad and dangerous situation if it happens again. JD and Joe, I'm assuming you guys feel the same way?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like he's done. At this point, it's like, how many more do you need to understand that you're probably not going to have a long career in the NFL? And it does trickle down to his family. Those are going to be the ones that needs to actually step in and get him out of there. But as for now, I think, like you said, if it was a big hit, maybe it'd be a little harder to read, but it wasn't a big hit at all. He initiated the contact. He lowered his head when he should have slid feet first. These are precautions he needs to take so this won't happen again. And fortunately, he doesn't know how to protect himself, so I think he should call it a career.
Yeah, I think we all put it perfectly. JD, do you want to give a take, or should we just get off this depressing topic and get right into? Yeah, I feel the same way. I think we pretty much covered everything, and I feel like the entire sports world feels the same way. So hopefully we do see him make the right decision, which is not what we want to say, but that's what I'm hoping at least I see. But boys, Enough of that. It's time to dive into everyone's favorite segment. It is UFC Free Plays from Joe with Moneyline Hacks. We're going to start by recapping last week's UFC event. How did we do? What went on?
So last week's UFC event went great for the VIP subscribers. On this show, we did 1-1. So I had Burns money line that didn't hit. Had a feeling that Sean Brady could be overwhelmed by Burns, but it seems like it was the other way around. I am putting Burns on my aging and declining list now. He is not the same Burns, so do not bet him like he is the same Burns like we did last week. We did hit the over. We hit the over 4.5 rounds. It went to decision, just like I thought. So that was a good one. So we went 1-1 last week on our plays for across the board.
We love to see that. I mean, you don't love to see it. You, of course, want to go 2-0, but I do know how you normally do. So a 1-1 is not the end of the world. It's not what everyone's looking for, but yet again, it is definitely not the end of the world. And the great thing is about UFC, we can go right back into this week's, and you have a whole nother shot to have a big, big event. Let's go on here. So are there any fights that you'd like to talk about with this upcoming UFC 306 card?
Yeah, so let's talk about the first fight on the card, which is Raul Rosas Jr., youngest talent on the roster right now. At 19 years old, turns 20 in October, and he entered the UFC at 17 years old off the Contender Series. Yeah, he's had such a great career so far, such a dynamic career. It's been really fun to watch, and he even came out this weekend and said he wanted to retire at 25. So for that to be the path, we have to continue seeing him dominate, and I expect to see that this weekend, just not with a finish. I do think this goes to decision. The guy he's fighting has, I believe, 36 fights, which is almost double anyone has that. Almost double the fights so far that Raul Rosas has faced so far with any opponents. They've only had about half of those 36 fights. So I'm feeling like Aori Kilang, which is the opponent for Raul Rosas Jr. at the Sphere this weekend. I'm feeling like Aori Kilang could make it to decision. He has enough experience. I think he'll get dominated, but I don't think he'll be finished. So for that reason, I do have over 1.5 rounds as my official pick for that fight. And then if you want to sprinkle a little at Raul Rosas by decision at plus 450, that's a good one to keep an eye out for too. But look for this to go over 1.5 rounds.
Ben, thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, for Rosas, for me, I remember seeing that whole thing about retiring at 25. I think he's getting a little ahead of himself. He is a minus 1,000 favorite. This is a spot where he's expected to dominate, and he probably will. But I will say Richie Lang's probably the hardest competition he's going to see in here. He's an excellent grappler. Rosas, I still think, needs to work on his striking a little bit. I'm not saying that he's bad or anything because the kid's 19, and you can't really judge him for what he is. He came into the UFC on Contender Series at 17 years old. Like, this kid is just unreal, and he's going to get better pretty much every fight. I think he's on a good track right now, but I just think talking about retirement at 19 years old, like, I get that he has a good plan for himself. I think he's getting a little ahead of himself, and Arichi Lang actually is not that bad. I know he's had ups and downs in his career, but he is still a vet. He has the one key advantage he has in this fight is he has a lot more experience in the UFC, and he's actually got a pretty good chin. So I agree with Joe. I don't think that Rosas is actually going to finish this fight unless he actually gets it to the ground, which he probably will, and could submit him. But Richie Lang doesn't get finished that often. So from that aspect, I love this fight to go the distance. I agree with Joe there. And I'm not saying necessarily I think Rosas is going to lose, but the price I think is heavily inflated, and a lot of people are overlooking Richie Lang here. So could be a potential underdog spot. I'm not saying for anything heavy, but you're getting a very, very high price on Arichi Lang if you were to take him as an underdog.
Have you seen the odds today? It's jumped up. I know last night when I did look at this, it was around a minus 900, minus 1,000 for Raul Rosas Jr. He's now coming in at a minus 1,300, and it looks to be steaming. So if you do want to take an underdog shot, like Ben is saying here, you might want to wait on this. You probably could get a Richie Lang at a higher line because it does seem like it's steaming more and more towards Rosas. But I agree with the two of you guys. I do think this one is going to stay a longer fight, and this one should go over the distance here. I don't think Rosas is going to get a finish. Personally, myself, JD, I know you feel the same way. Let's keep it rolling, boys. Next fight we're going to be covering, I believe, is going to be the Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez fight. This is a fight I'm very much looking forward to. Joe, you want to kick us off? What do you have for this fight?
Yes, sir. So in this fight, It's looking like the line has been set the same way it was set the last time these two gentlemen were supposed to fight. Brian Ortega is the underdog at plus 160 last time I checked. And I'm gonna go with Brian Ortega right off the bat. I like where he's at right now. Every time he gets in there, his striking looks improved. And I know Diego Lopez has some hype and some momentum behind him. I do see Diego Lopez as a future champ, but I also saw Brian Ortega as the same way. They're just some of the two best fighters in the division right now, and we got the old guard kind of versus the new guard. And I just feel like Ortega's going to take over this fight, whether it be, and I think it's going to be a very close decision. If I were to have to pick what this decision would be, I would pick this by split decision. So that is something to keep an eye out for. I think by the end of the fight, the judges aren't going to know who to pick, and that doesn't really bode well for me personally, because I do feel like Ortega will eke it out, but in fights these close, you can never hammer anything. So I see this fight being very close. I see Ortega winning, but my biggest play for this fight is going to be that over 2.5 rounds. Both guys can strike, but both guys do absorb damage. And when you absorb damage, you tend to slow down. I think they're going to both absorb damage. They both have massive chins, but I do think they're going to make it over that 2.5 round point.
Awesome. Ben, what do you think about this fight?
Yeah, it's an interesting fight because Lopez is coming off probably his best performance. This is easily his biggest test. Brian Ortega is easily the best fighter he will have faced so far. He's coming off a very good performance. Dan Ige came into that fight on short notice, actually. I think it was like under a day, or it was very, very short notice.
It's like 5 hours.
Yeah, it was very, very short notice for what we usually see. And he still took care of him in good fashion and against a good striker. And I think that's going to be important in this fight because Brian Ortega has not faced a lot of grapplers like Lopez lately. He's faced a lot of really good strikers and lost. But this is finally a matchup where Lopez is an excellent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist. Maybe not on the exact same level as Ortega, but he's up there. He's a very, very good BJJ artist. And on the feet, I think I actually give Lopez the slight edge. So for me, Lopez should win. I don't know if he's worth this price tag of minus 170. It's kind of ballooning up a little bit now, depending on where you're looking at. The main book I bet on is minus 170. So I don't think it's necessarily worth that. I think it's a little closer than that. So for me, it's kind of just a no play, but I'm very interested to see the fight because I think they're going to actually cancel each other out in the grappling and kind of play out on the feet here. And I think Lopez will have that little bit of an advantage from what we've seen from Brian Ortega lately in the striking department. But I agree on that over. Again, I hate to just agree on everything, but I really like that over as well, too.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
and if I could just insert myself in here, I totally agree with what Ben said. I think the money line is kind of like a stay away, even though I'm personally on Ortega. It's not going to be a big play. I think the play right here is that over. So if you're looking for anything in that fight, I would do the over.
All right. Well, boys, before we get into the NFL segment of the show, were there any other plays or any other fights you guys want to talk about? Ben, do you have a best bet you want to give out? Or they need to follow you at Twitter, at We Beat the Spread, and you'll have those all for them tomorrow.
Honestly, one of my favorite bets tomorrow, and it sounds crazy, is Sean O'Malley. I know he's going to be a super public pick. I know Dvalishvili has all the tools to get him down and take him down. But we've seen this kind of thing where a fighter comes in knowing they need to take down and they end up walking into a shot. If there's a fighter that could do that perfectly, it is Sean O'Malley. It kind of reminds me of that Curtis Blades fight where he walked into that. It was that Derek Lewis Curtis Blades fight where Derek Lewis knew he was going to shoot and he was able to fire an uppercut and knock him out. Now Dvalishvili, I don't know, his chin has seemed to hold up pretty good. So I think it'll be kind of tough for O'Malley to actually knock him out. But I think he can rock him. I think he can tag him pretty hard. And if he can actually defend those takedowns, that's going to be the key here. I mean, he gets taken down once, this fight's going to go south quickly. But he knows it's coming. Everyone and their mother knows that Dvalishvili is going to be shooting for 15 minutes, or 25 minutes, I should say, in this fight. And so knowing it's coming, I think will help him prepare a little bit better. It's not even a question for him. He knows it's coming, and he's been preparing for it all camp. He's obviously not a wrestler, so if he gets taken down, this whole thing kind of goes out the window. But I think his takedown defense will actually hold up. And he's such a good striker from range that he can kind of keep that range and not allow Dvalishvili to really get in on him. Harder said than done, of course, because Dvalishvili be off. But I do think he can kind of use that elite striking we've seen. His striking gets better every time we see him, which is crazy because he was already really good. And just from that aspect, I think he will be able to edge this one out, tag him. with a few hard shots. I don't know if he can necessarily knock him out, but at least tag him a few times and end up winning, retaining that belt.
All right. Any other plays from you, Joe, before we get into the NFL segment?
No other plays, but I want to talk about what Ben was talking about right now. Basically, I agree with everything he said. I do like Sean O'Malley, but this fight could go one of two ways, and we know which way. It's a typical striker versus grappler matchup. Sean did already knock out Merab's teammate for the belt. Similar style, but not a similar entry on takedown. So Merab does seem to have the better pressure and mix striking, grappling mix. But I would lean Sean getting the KO. Just because, like Ben said, Sean is probably practicing for certain entries that he knows Merab does. So whether it be his greatest move, what I think is his step knee, I think, or whether it be an uppercut, I do think Sean is going to land something down the middle and either KO Merab or get Merab into some trouble to where then he could put on the pressure and finish Merab. But yeah, I'm liking Sean as well.
All right. I'm still in between. I will have my official pick tomorrow for that fight. I do know there's rumors of Merab potentially having staph infection, which means he would be on antibiotics, which means your energy tank is a lot lower than normal. So still doing a little research and still want to see the final weigh-ins. But I appreciate both of you giving your UFC locks and giving everybody some great plays here. And now I think it is time, fellas, that we dive right in to the NFL segment. JD's hungry over there. Look at him. So JD, we're going to go immediately to you. We have the Bucs who are taking on the Lions. Lions are coming in at 7.5-point favorites. That's a big key number in sports betting. What do you think about this matchup? What do you like in the Lions Bucs?
Yeah, to start off with, as far as the Bucs actually last week, they looked really good. I actually did have one max play on last week's card, and it was their team total over. And actually, that was an easy win. As far as actually Baker Mayfield goes, he looked great. That may have been the best I may have ever seen him play. He looked really good.
Yeah, he did.
And then as far as the Lions, I actually was on them. They actually needed like overtime. But then, they just drove down the field and actually scored there. The biggest key to me here is the Bucs defense. They're actually down quite a few key guys. And with the Lions offense, they are definitely good. I actually have them ranked really high. So with seeing that the Bucs can actually definitely move the ball. And actually, as far as in the red zone, they played extremely well. So as far as my numbers on this game, I have the Lions favored at -7.2, and then I have the total set at 53.1. To me, that total, I think it's actually a little bit low. For me, this game sets up for actually both teams to actually put up lots of points here. So my official play on this is going to be the over, and that's at 51.
All right. Ben, what do you like in the first breakdown of the day?
Well, I loved everything JD said. I think that he pointed out those injuries well because, yes, the Buccaneers are very thin, especially in their secondary. Antoine Winfield, of course, going down. They have some cornerbacks down. Very thin in the secondary, which is not what you want to hear going into a game against the Lions, of course. We all know what they can do on offense, and I think that this game actually is going to look a lot more like a shootout. We saw what Baker did last week. It was really impressive. I know it was against the Commanders, but he still threw for almost 300 yards. He looked excellent. He had a really good connection with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I think he's really established a good connection with them. That's actually where my play is going. I'm taking a prop in this matchup. It's going to be Chris Godwin over. It depends on where you look right now, but I'm seeing 61.5 on most books, on mine at least that I bet on. It's up from 57. It was opening around 56, 57 yards. He's up to 61 already. I think this is going to rise a little bit more by game time. So I would hop on his yards as fast as you can. He had 83 on 8 receptions in week 1. That Lions secondary is not anything special. Last year, they allowed the third most yards to wide receivers per game. I still think their secondary is a big weakness for them. We just saw Cooper Kupp put up 110 yards. And yes, that's Cooper Kupp, but Chris Godwin's the number 1 wide receiver over there in Tampa. And Baker Mayfield looked excellent. So in a shootout style, type of game where we're going to see probably a lot of passing, a lot of clock stopping from those passes, and a lot of scoring. I think that we're going to see a lot of yards from these wide receivers, especially Godwin, who I think can kind of torch that Lions secondary, because I think the Lions are going to score a lot. I like that over, but the more the Lions score, that just means the more Tampa has the ball, and it means the more they need to score. So that involves Chris Godwin getting a lot of targets. So I think he flies over that number. That's going to be my favorite play in this game.
I like it. Joe, let's go to you before I give my pick.
Yeah, it just seems like during Baker season, he ends up shining as an underdog. I have here that he's thrown at least 2 touchdowns in his last 6 underdog victories. They held Washington last week to under 250 offensive yards, and I just feel like they're off to a hot start right now. I think the Lions struggle a bit in the second half. They also had 304 passing yards on them last week allowed, their defense. So like you guys said, it looks like it's primed for the over. I am liking the over, and I am liking the shootout. With the shootouts, it tends to be within a touchdown. So my pick on this will be the Bucks plus 7.5. That's what I have right now, and yeah, that's where I'm at.
I love that. And guys, who would have thought this before the season? If you would have told me the Lions would have had a top 3 offensive line, I would have said, I think they're going to be good, but not that good. They are that good. They have a top 3 offensive line, and there's no doubting that. We saw in overtime, the Lions ran the ball on every single play but one, and the one play they didn't run was a little dump off to the running back, which was a designed little running type of play anyway. This offensive line was moving people left and right in the Rams game. I think we're going to see that continue here. It's a lot of points, so I don't exactly feel comfortable taking the Lions. Everyone knows a key number is 7.5, and I don't like taking a favorite over that 7 in that 7 to 8 point range. I lean the over as well. It's not an official play as of yet for me. It probably will be when we get closer to game time, the over 51.5, because I think we see points, but I'm just not comfortable taking a side in this game. Let's move right along. Actually, before we move along, we do have a question from Tar Heel regarding this game. Do we think that Baker is going to have a career year? I think he's going to have a very similar type of year like he did last year, where he was very good, and I do think that will continue this year. Guys, any comments on what we think Baker will be this year?
Yes, I actually do think so. Does anybody have a line on him to have the most passing yards?
I can look that up right now. 1 second.
I would actually love to see what that number is.
Yeah, he looks good.
It will take me a minute, so you can talk about something else while I search for it, but I can find it for us.
But I mean, actually, yeah, like I think actually like this is actually his year. This is actually going to be it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Anything?
Yeah, I go ahead, Ben. So, I think it's just going to be a career year for Baker as well. He seems to do really well with momentum, and he's been building it up over the last few years. Don't have any stats to go along with it right now, but it's just a feeling in the air that it might be Baker Mania this year.
Season leaders are down, gentlemen, so I lied. I am not able to get that for you. So we'll be able to get more lines on that next week when the week is in between. But yeah, I do think Baker's going to have a very strong year. I don't see any regression from him. And when is Mike Evans going to start looking old? He just still doesn't. He's still putting up numbers. He's still getting touchdowns. So this is a very interesting game, and this will tell us a lot about both teams going forward for the rest of the year. Let's move right along, fellas, to the second game we have on the slate, which is the Saints who are visiting the Cowboys. Joe, I know this is a big game for you. What do you think is going to happen in the Saints-Cowboys game?
So last week the Cowboys came out, and the run defense was the big issue. They held Cleveland to 93 rushing yards. Not saying they're the best running team right now, but they did their job. The passing, we saw Deshaun Watson looked awful. Can't really judge them though against that pass rush of the Cowboys. I'm thinking the Cowboys pull off the win this weekend. They're 16-1 straight up over the last 17 games at home. They cover the spread very often. I think they're 7-4 in the last few games as underdogs. covering the spread, and Prescott averages almost 300 passing yards at home. So, we're a very good home team. The Cowboys, I say we because, I love the Cowboys and I feel like I'm a part of that fan base. Us crazy Cowboy fans. And yeah, I just feel like it's going to be another typical early season Cowboys game. We're an early season team, as you guys know, so I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'll jump in here second, guys. I see it the same way you do, Joe. Unfortunately, and fortunately, I'm not a Cowboys fan. I'm very happy about that. But I do think that they look very good, and I'm not a big believer in the Saints after week one. I mean, is anyone really sold on what the Saints did in week one? They looked fantastic. They scored an absolute boatload of points, and they absolutely took it to the Panthers 47-10. But yet again, I'm pretty sure a team of 11 handicappers and a team full of us on a defensive side could have done a better job than the Carolina Panthers. That, to me, is not a professional football team. They would probably lose to Ben's Minnesota college team. Oop, I apologize. Someone is honking right out my window. Jesus. But yes, I think this Cowboys team is going to be very good, and I definitely like them at the minus 6.5 in this game. Ben, thoughts?
Yeah, Dak Prescott has not lost at home since October 23rd. Sorry, not October 23rd. It was actually 9/11. It was week 2 last year, a day from yesterday. Yesterday wasn't 9/11. 2 days ago was the last time he lost at home. Didn't lose at all at home last year, and the rest of the season 2 years ago. They're just a different beast at home. It really is kind of like Joe was saying. He averages like 300 yards at home. Games he's playing, it just seems like they never lose at home. And you have the Saints, who have a lot of hype from last season, from last game. And like Alpha said, that doesn't really count in my eyes. It really doesn't even count as a game because of how bad the Panthers look. That wasn't necessarily the Saints playing good. That was the Panthers playing horribly. So I'm still not sold on Carr. I'm still not really sold on that team. They're in a bad division, so they could probably win it. Falcons aren't even looking good. They might still end up winning the division. I still don't think they're that great of a team. The Cowboys just seem like they're always so locked in during the regular season, especially at home. So it really is one of those spots where I'd actually say there's a lot of good teaser spots on the board. I don't know how big you guys are on teasers and all that kind of stuff, but if there was a very good spot, I believe this is it because there is a world where they're up 10 or 10-12 or something, and then the Saints score and backdoor this game. But I definitely think that the Cowboys at least win this one. So if you find another team you really like and you put this in a little 2-team teaser, I love that because they're sitting right on that line where you're going to get basically a pick 'em if you tease the Cowboys. So that would be actually probably what I recommend in this game. I do think they win and probably do cover, but I love taking this with another team to tease.
I like that. I do like that, to be honest. JD, thoughts from you?
Yeah, the Saints, I'm actually really down. I'm actually really down on them. But man, the Panthers made them look good. They made them look really good.
I think they're going to make a lot of teams look good this year, to be honest, though. I think a lot of teams are going to feel very good after the Panthers week on their schedule.
And I think that's why that this number, what is it, 6 still?
6.5.
6.5, yeah. I actually think there's why we're actually getting this. My personal numbers are in the game are Cowboys at minus 7.5, and I have the total at 48.3. Yeah, just keep this simple. This is a Cowboys play. Kind of like Ben was saying, I'm actually going to go the opposite here. I personally would not tease this game. I would actually take alt lines. I'll take the Cowboys up to probably minus 12.5.
Wow. All right. I like that play. So it looks like we have a pretty group consensus here on the Cowboys. So that means the Cowboys are going to lose by 900 points. Just kidding. I think we all have a good read on this game. And I do think a lot of people are big believers in the Saints after week one. And a big thing I've been telling people, you cannot take a lot of information away from week one. You have to wait a couple weeks to see what these teams really are. I know there's a lot of recency bias. We just saw some teams get smacked around, but there will be some teams we talk about that I think have better second weeks and do prove the doubters wrong. Let's keep it moving right along. We do have a little bit of sad news. This is going to be the last breakdown from Mr. Ben. He does have an underwear photo shoot coming up, so we have to get him out of here. But before that happens, Ben, we're going to let you start on this game so we can get you on time. Rams, Cardinals, what do you got?
Yeah, kind of similar to the last game. I think that the Cardinals are in a very similar spot in that the Bills, in a weird way, the Bills made them look good. I mean, they still lost the game, but they had a very good game coming down to the wire, better than I think if that game had happened later in the season or if Josh Allen and they didn't look rusty, I think they would have beat them by more. So I think
I agree.
a lot of stock into the Cardinals based off their performance last week. But I mean, Kyler Murray just they scored a lot of points, sure. Like they covered, I guess you could say they almost won outright, but they gave up the lead. They still just I don't see it from Kyler Murray, even in a game where they scored 28 points. He had no connection with Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't get how you draft a guy that high, first wide receiver pick, have all this hype, and then just not even look at him, especially the one that went completely viral, the one where he was open basically in the end zone, didn't even see him. Probably because Kyler Murray's like 5'2", he couldn't see him over the line. That's always been a big issue. And Kyler Murray's just taking the ball and running when he actually has these competent receivers now. You just drafted a top wide receiver from college and you're just running the ball, which is awesome. You know, like it's good that he's mobile and getting yards, but if he's that open, like you got to find your number one guy. So they looked good. Sure. They covered all that kind of stuff, but I'm a lot higher on the Rams. And the fact that both these teams are 0-1, it's two very different 0-1s because the Rams played a top Lions team that's projected to be in the top of the NFC at the end of the season and took them down to the wire, literally in overtime, and looked great doing it. I mean, without Aaron Donald, they still played pretty good defense. Without Aaron Donald, with him,
they did
everything. They had a decent game because that offense is scary. So while they did lose that game, yes, they looked way better in week 1 to me than the Cardinals did. So I'm gonna have to go Rams here for sure. I think this line is kind of just very off based off how these two teams looked in week 1.
All right. And before we get you out of here, do you have any best bets you want to give the people before we continue with this breakdown?
That Chris Godwin receiving yards play is probably my favorite bet on the board, and not even from the board for this week, probably the NFL season so far. It's been 1 week, I get it. But so far, of any play I've played so far, Chris Godwin receiving yards is my top play for this weekend. And then also the Rams game. We just talked about it, 30 seconds ago. But that really is one of my favorite team plays for this week for sure, is going to be the Rams money line. And then favorite prop of the week is definitely Chris Godwin receiving yards.
All right. Well, we appreciate you, Ben. Thank you for the picks. Thank you for the analysis, the UFC, the NFL. We will see you back on Monday for the Monday NFL/baseball show. So we appreciate you, bro, and we will see you next week.
See you guys. Let's have a
later, Ben. Absolutely. All right, Joe. Let's go over to you. What do you have in this Rams-Cardinals game?
Yeah, Ben was right. These 0-1s aren't the same. We got the Rams with their defense still looking like a defensive unit without Aaron Donald. When it's two teams like this going into the season, they're both 0-1. I'm a big historical data trends guy. I like to start looking at the historical trends. It's looking like 9 straight wins, maybe 10 if they get it done this weekend at State Farm Stadium up in Arizona. 12 of the last 14 meetings against Arizona has been on the Rams side, so they've won over 90% of the last matchups. Kyler Murray, he had a decent game last week, but they still lost. His offense remains inconsistent, and they had 4 sacks allowed on Kyler Murray, so the offensive line isn't doing their job like they should be. For that reason, I am going with Rams plus 1.5. I do think they're gonna get it done. I think the defense is gonna be able to contain kind of frazzle the Cardinals. They're easily shakeable. So I just believe that the Rams will be consistent throughout the game and Cardinals won't, and it'll come down to Rams covering that spread.
All right. The one thing that scares me is the running game of the Cardinals. I mean, the Rams could not stop a nosebleed in the running attack last week. So it does scare me a little bit with the Cardinals having that dual threat with Kyler Murray. However, I do still think that the Rams pull this game out. I was very, very surprised with the Rams offensive line in week 1. They did have 3 new players on the offensive line, and they all stepped up. They looked like they've been an offensive line for years and years working with each other, and they played a very, very good game together, especially for their first one. I do think that continuity, that kind of brotherhood on the offensive line will get better as the season gets along, as they play with each other more. And I do think this Rams team still can be a threat in the NFC. I don't believe that about the Cardinals. And in this matchup, I do think the Rams get it done. I'm not going to take the points. I'm going to straight up take the money line, and you can get that currently at a plus 105. JD, do you agree with the boys? You going the other way?
Like everybody likes, seems like everybody likes the Rams here. My numbers absolutely love them here. I have them at actually minus 2.9. And I have the total sitting at 50.3. So with the books, they have the Cardinals favored here. For me, that says a lot. And that's why, as far as the Rams, that I just can't take them. Everything numbers wise is actually telling me to. But yeah, like I just can't here. But as far as this total, it's actually very interesting to me because it has actually been it has actually been bet down, and I don't think that's right. As far as the Cardinals go, they actually are going to be an over team. There's a team that I've looked at. I'm like, okay, they're actually going to be an over team. So I am looking at that, and I think the Rams should actually be able to actually score here. The Cardinals can also. So with this total moving down, I can get a 47 and a half now. So I am actually going to go over that.
All right. And quickly, I do want to read the betting splits here. It is 70% of the money is on the Rams and 30% are on the Cardinals. So the public definitely sees this the Rams way as well. Just wanted to give everyone that piece of information. And that backs up exactly what JD said. That's why I wanted to add that.
I would be careful. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's move right along to another game that could be a potential trap, but we do have the Bengals who are taking on the Chiefs. I'll start this one out. Guys, I said it on the show last week. I've said it for years, well, the last couple of years. I'm not a big believer in this Bengals team. And to be honest, Joe Burrow does not look like he's ready from his wrist injury. Did anyone else see how he tried to grab that Gatorade bottle and he just couldn't grip it? That's a pure indication of what his exact injury has been. And when he got hurt with this wrist injury, all the experts, all the people on TV are saying this is what happened in a football game. Like, this is not a football injury. We're not really sure what this is going to do to him long term. I think it's really messed up, Joe Burrow. He's not like a 22, 23-year-old kid. He's 27. He's not exactly young in the league, and he gets hurt way more than he doesn't get hurt. Half the seasons he's played in the NFL, he's ended the year on the IR. He could just not stay healthy. Early in his career, it was because of the offensive line. He had no time. But that's not the case anymore. He does have a little bit more time, and he continuously just does not look like he's 100%. For me, I'm not a big believer in this Bengals team. T. Higgins is going to be out yet again. He was ruled out about an hour ago, and I think this Chiefs team is legit yet again. It's a little scary with the line being at a 5.5, but I am going to be taking the 5.5. I may end up having a parlay on this game as well where I do take the Chiefs on the money line, but I am going to be taking them right now on the minus 5.5. They should be able to take it to this Bengals team. I don't think this Bengals team is going to be able to stop them. We all saw how they played against the Patriots, the Bengals team, but I know I said earlier there could be some recency bias. This to me is not one of those games. I think the Bengals are what they are. The loss of Joe Mixon is a big loss for them. T. Higgins not being there right now is a big loss for them, and Joe Burrow is clearly not even close to 100%. Give me the Chiefs. There's nothing I would take on the Bengals side in this game. JD, we'll go to you second. What do you got?
Yeah, man. Like I share everything you just said there. I think the Chiefs, again, are obviously going to be very good. As far as their offense goes, it actually is a new look for them. But they're going to be really good. And I mean, like, could be, like, scary good.
I agree.
And – you know, as far as the Bengals, I feel like that's going to be a very actually like popular side, because people are going to be like, you know, actually like week one, you know, you can't, you know, believe everything you just saw. But I think the Bengals are still going to have a rough time here, and the Chiefs are clearly they're actually good. I mean, actually they're like ready to actually roll.
I agree.
And also the Chiefs know that the Bengals are that one team that actually believe that actually like they can beat them. And I think this is that spot where the Chiefs are going to want to whoop their ass.
You mean Burrowhead? They don't like when they say Burrowhead?
Yeah. Yes. So I think this is a perfect spot for them. You know, I'm playing this game a little bit different. As far as the Chiefs offense, I think they are going to start off strong. You can get their first half team total over 13.5 currently. And I absolutely love that. Just to give you all my like numbers on this game also, I have the Chiefs favored at minus 7.8 and the total at 48.4. If this number actually creeps down to 4.5, I will actually be on the Chiefs too.
Excellent, excellent. And guys, we did just get some information about this Chiefs team. Marquise Hollywood Brown looks like he's not going to go for a while. He has been placed on the short-term IR, which is a minimum of 4 games. But what I'm reading right now from Ari Myrov, who's a great follow on Twitter, is that this is going to be a potential very long injury. Expect this to be at least double the 4 games. So that's a big loss for this Chiefs team long-term. Thank goodness for them. They got Worthy. How did the Bills let that happen? We'll let that go. But good for them. They have Worthy. It looks like they will not be having Hollywood Brown. Joe, did you give your pick on this game yet?
I did not.
Well, we need it.
I agree with you guys, though. My pick's basically through you guys. You guys made amazing points, and I feel like it's going to be the Chiefs game. You guys said it all. The Bengals just don't look right, and the Chiefs look right. They're the defending champs. They're on three-peat blood mission. They're out for blood this year. They're trying to get that three-peat, and they're going to try to prove a point with the Bengals starting week 2. I actually have this on as an alternate line pick at -6.5 for the Chiefs to get a little bit extra bang for your buck there, and let's cash.
All right, let's do it. We all like the Chiefs here. Let's keep moving it right along. And my ghost is back, so let me turn the television off. There we go. We're moving on to Bears-Texans Sunday Night Football. Stop laughing at me. We're going into this game, guys. And what did we see out of Caleb Williams? JD, I'll go to you. I have a bunch of friends at home who are like, gold jacket. Give him the gold jacket. This guy, Caleb Williams, is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Did you see that? Because I sure didn't.
No, I sure didn't. I believe as far as nerves, he actually said like he doesn't get
of course he
doesn't get nervous, but after that first series there, you could see it. I mean, clearly see it. And yeah, just actually moving into this game here, this is going to be a Sunday night primetime game on the road, and I think we're going to see a bunch of nerves.
Oh, yeah.
But actually, yeah, I'll go and let you go there. But
yeah, I feel the same exact way you do. Joe, do you think Caleb Williams looked good in his first start? Do you feel that he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer? What do you think?
I won't go as far as say he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I will say I don't think he will be a bust, but I did not think he looked good at all.
He definitely did not look good. He only had 93 yards passing. And to me, Caleb Williams in every big moment of his career in college seemed to lose the big game. I know a lot of you remember that Notre Dame game from last year where USC Notre Dame, where he turned the ball over multiple times, including with 4 minutes left, had a chance to win the game. Big turnover. To me, he's just a guy who's never lived up to expectations. He's dropped the ball in big moments frequently. As you can tell, I'm not a big Caleb Williams guy. However, I do think this Bears team is going to be pretty good. They will get it going down the line. I'm also not somebody who thinks Caleb Williams is going to be terrible. I think he could be a franchise quarterback. I just don't think he's a generational Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, the type of guy that they're making him out to be. So I don't want everyone to say, oh, you think he's terrible. I don't think he's terrible. I just don't think he's the next Peyton Manning. I think he'll be a decent NFL starting quarterback. It is going to take some time, though. As that was pretty clear from what we saw in the first game. It is going to take some time, and they are going up against a Texans team that, going to be honest, they don't need any time. They're poised for an absolutely massive year. The addition of Joe Mixon gives this team a completely different dynamic. He had 159 rushing yards and a touchdown in their first game. Those are unbelievable numbers for Joe Mixon. And that offensive line, I know we said the Lions earlier are a top 3 offensive line in football. Well, another team that's a top 3 in the offensive line is the Houston Texans. They just definitely are. The amount of holes they were able to create, the guys that they have there have the experience, and they've been good in the past. I'm very, very high on this Texans team. That being said, I do think we're going to see a lot of running in this game. A lot of running, and that's going to lead to the clock moving, and I'm taking the under 45.5. Primetime unders. I don't think Caleb Williams is going to be able to move the ball pretty far down the field, and I do think this Texans team is going to hammer the running game with Joe Mixon. Give me the under, one of my favorite plays of the week. JD, any action from you?
Yeah, man. As far as the Texans here, they finally get to actually host an actual primetime game. That actual Houston crowd is going to be going freaking nuts, man. And really, as far as the Saints and the actual Cowboys game, you just really take everything that I said there and I just move it over here. I think this is a Texans play. I think this is Texans big. I would actually take alt lines. I think this is not even close. Let's just say that.
I think it's not going to be close either. Joe, any action from you before we get into our outlier POD and our best bets?
Yeah, so I think it same as you and JD. I think it's not going to be close. I have the Texans spread -6.5. You know who isn't a top 3 offensive line? The Bears. They're going to be a little shaky, and I think Caleb's going to get even more nervous this week. I don't see them putting much on the board, and for that reason, I too have the under. So we agree unanimously, -6.5 spread and under 45.5. I'm just seeing this as a running game, and when Caleb tries to throw, he's probably going to get sacked a couple times this game. Yep. So that's how I see it.
I think the Bears know their only path to having a competitive game is to dominate the time of possession. How do you dominate the time of possession? Run the ball and keep it out of your opponent's hands. That's going to be the game plan for the Bears. Is it going to work? Probably not, but it will do enough to keep this total under the 45.5. Well, gentlemen, that's going to do it for our breakdowns from UFC, MMA, and NFL. But we do have one thing we have to do before best bets, and that is get into our outlier play of the day. As you guys can see, we are taking Fernando Tatis over 1.5 total bases. He has hit this in 4 of his last 5 games. He's been phenomenal at doing this. He's starting to come alive. You can see by the graph here. And in his last 10 games, he's hitting at 60% as well. If you scroll up here just a little bit so I can see the current odds, which is plus 125, you're getting a plus money play on a guy who can get this with one swing of the bat. We absolutely love Fernando Tatis today, and that's going to be our official outlier play. Guys, if you don't know about Outlier, they help you find player props better than any company out there. They show you trends, who's hot, who's not, and who's done well against what pitcher, what team. It's for all sports. So make sure you guys check out Outlier. There will be a link posted on Moneyball Metrics for a discount to get in there. So make sure you guys get in there, check out Outlier, and cash with the boys because we keep cashing with Outlier. Gentlemen, that's going to bring us to everybody's favorite part of the shows that we do. Are you guys ready to dive into our best bets?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do it, fellas. We're going in to best bets. Joe, we're going to start with you. Do you have 1? Do you have 2? Do you have 3? How many best bets do you have for the people this week?
I was trying to decide between 2 or 3, but we're giving out 3.
All right.
Yeah, the first one is going to be that Buccaneers plus 7.5. I actually really like that line. All 3 of my best bets are spread bets. This is the only one that is plus 7.5. I just think that the Bucs came into the season a little undervalued, and the Lions came in a little overvalued. We'll see down the line how that plays out, but I do believe in the whole Baker being hot right now, Chris Godwin just always being explosive, and Mike Evans just always there, the boy wonder. So I feel like Bucs plus 7.5. That is a best bet.
All right. That's the only one for the people?
No, I got 2 more. So for my second one, I got the Cowboys minus 6.5 versus the Saints. I don't think the Saints will have anything for them. Cowboys play spectacular in the early season. Cowboys play spectacular at home, and I just the defense is just going to keep on doing what they do, and I think Dak's going to have an even better game than he had last game. He didn't even need to have a good game last week, and he looked good. I just think, yeah. So I got Cowboys minus 6.5 as the second best bet. Take that to the bank. For the third best bet, I got Chiefs minus 5.5. This one is another one where I don't think the Bengals are going to have anything for the Chiefs.
See it the same way you do.
Yes, yeah. Patrick Mahomes is going to throw for over 300 yards. He has thrown for 3+ touchdowns in 5 of his last 6 AFC North meetings. He's just going to be Patrick Mahomes, and minus 6.5 on that one.
All right.
-5 alternate line minus 6.5.
All right, we got the alt line. I'll go next. We'll save the best for last for JD. I got 3 of them. First one, Rams money line plus 105. We went over all the reasons earlier. We did break down that game, guys. So if you did miss anything, you can go rewind, watch anything. We have 5 breakdowns today. Check it out. All the guys gave an answer on that game. Second play I have is the Chiefs minus 5.5. I'm not as fancy as Joe. I'm not buying the line up or selling the lineup, if you will, but I'm going to take the straight up line at the 5.5. Third and final best bet is my favorite best bet of the entire weekend, and that's that under 45.5. in the Bears-Texans. That's going to be low. I don't see any way this game gets out of the 30s. It might even end in the 20s. That's definitely my best play. JD, there's 2,500 people in here. All of them are waiting to hear your best bets. What do you have for the people?
All right, here. Let's go to that first game that we talked about. Let's go to the Bucks and the Lions. Let's go over 51 here.
All right.
Then let's go to the Bengals and the Chiefs game. And let's go a little bit different here. Like I said, let's go with that Chiefs first half team total over 13 and a half. Usually as far as week one, I like normally start out slow. It's been like that for me for actually years now. This past week was the best week I have ever had. I went 14-4. As far as units, I was up 36. So I am very happy with that. And actually, just for everybody in here now, for this week, I actually will give an actual free trial out.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can either DM me, you can DM the page here. Just actually find me. We're actually ever there, and actually you will get all of this week's plays free.
Wow. Guys, make sure you take advantage of that offer. Make sure you check out JD's free trial. It will be posted on the Moneyball Metrics page. It will also be posted on the Line Movers page. So make sure you guys check that out. You are not going to want to miss it. Fellas, we're just about 45 minutes in. We broke down the games. We gave people the winners. And now all we have to do is wait back and watch our bets. We appreciate every single person. There's still 2,500 people in here. This is our first week where we went 5 days a week. I have good news. You'll see our pretty faces 5 days again next week. We will be back Monday to recap everything. Joe, awesome MMA analysis. If you guys are MMA fans and you missed UFC 306's breakdown, rewind this. Go watch it because Joe gave out some winners. You can find Joe as well in the Moneyball Metrics Discord. You can find me in there. You can find JD in there. And we've been giving out winners nonstop. So we appreciate every single one of you, and we will see you next week. JD, any advice for the people before we get out of here? Putting you on the spot.
Let's win.
Let's fucking win, dude. Big weekend coming. You don't hear me curse often. Let's get it. We appreciate y'all.
See y'all.